the games begin.
And hello, everybody, and welcome to the Movie Pit Podcast. I am your host, Christian. Thank you very much for joining me on the podcast this week, the first official podcast of the new year of 2018. So before we get into it, I just want to say Happy New Year, and hopefully all of you had a Happy New Year and I hope said Merry Christmas, but probably some of you don't celebrate Christmas. So just happiness all around for the last couple weeks. But this is the new year, so obviously whole New Year movies and everything like that. And as you can tell from the title of this podcast, we are going to talk about what happened last year. So we're going to talk about some of the big movies last year, worst movies, disappointment movies, favorite movies, all around just a year in review of what it was. Now, this podcast is going to be a little different because I officially have a guest on this podcast. Yes, it's not only just going to be me, my rambling voice, it is going to be someone else's voice here on the podcast. So I'm going to let this very fine man who decided to join me today on the podcast introduce himself. So, my friend, go ahead.
Well, hello there, Chris. It's nice to hear from you today. My name's Tony B, and I am glad to be part of your podcast. I love movies. Very interested in the art it takes to just create a film, and so hearing you and letting me be a part of this is exciting. So as soon as you're ready, we can get into it. And also, just if I could, I want to plug in, I am a political podcaster. So if you are, done with being entertained by Chris and you want to be bored by politics with me, Tony B, feel welcome to join the Existentialists. Thanks for having me on again, Chris.
You're very welcome, Tony. And yes, I highly do recommend you go check out Tony's podcast because it is very good. So I thoroughly enjoy it. So, I mean, that's just one person's opinion, but whatever. So we're going to get right into it, like I mentioned, and we're going to go right into everyone's favorite topic about bashing movies. So we're going to start off with our worst / disappointments / least liked movies of 2017. Now, before we go into deep dive into everything, I do want to mention, I don't know where the discussion's going to go, so I'm just going to put this right here. This will be your official spoiler warning, because in case we go into spoilers, I don't want any comments being like, you spoiled the movie for me. First of all, you should go watch more movies. But second of all, here's your official spoiler warning.
And
so there's
they've been warned.
Yeah, they've been warned. There. I gave you an extra 3 seconds. That's enough in the podcast world. So I'm going to start off first with some dishonorable mentions instead of honorable mentions. I'm going to dishonorable mention a few of these movies here. They weren't the best movies, but they were also movies that I did not thoroughly enjoy. So these dishonorable mentions include Underworld Blood Wars, which was the last Underworld movie, which is currently on cable if you want to go brave that bullet. The Bye Bye Man, which I didn't have a lot of faith in anyway, but I went to go watch it, and it was okay. It just wasn't good. Also, Rings, which is the new Ring movie, which was not very good at all. Live by Night, which was the Ben Affleck movie. I was actually more disappointed with that one than saying that it sucked. I know there's a lot of mixed reactions to that, but I'll just say that it was disappointment for me. And Flatliners, the pseudo remake / not prequel / sequel, because they don't really mention what it was, but it kind of feels like it was a sequel, but it's set in modern times. I don't know, it was very confusing. So there you go. Those are your dishonorable mentions.
Okay.
So you wanna start off the conversation, Tony?
Yeah, you know what? I don't wanna. I'm gonna be honest. I didn't see the Bye Bye Man. I did not see the Rings.
Very lucky.
I did see. I did see Flatliners.
Oh, you did? Okay. You were part of me and my brother. We were the 3 out of the 5 people that probably watched the Flatliners.
Wait, are you talking about in the entire country?
Well, yeah, of course.
Okay, that makes sense. The Flatliners, it was an interesting concept, right? I think that's why it drew us 5 people into the theater to watch it. Or if you streamed it online like a jerk, no shame to you, but if you did that, I think the concept was there, right? This idea of what is beyond life. It's a beautiful question to ask towards our existence. What goes beyond that of living?
Yeah, definitely, yeah.
But the direction it takes towards the climax of the film, I'm like, no, wait, what's happening? And even towards the end, I'm thinking, okay, wait a minute, was that all a psycho kind of delusional kind of thing that happened, or was it really this kind of horror flick that it was proposing to be?
Yeah, and that's one of the things that kind of drew me out, because watching it, and then by the time it got to the third act, where it got to Nina Dobrev's character, I forgot her name in the movie, but that's who the actress is. When it kind of focuses in just on her, and it went from kind of this, asking the big question, what happens when we die, where do we go, and all of this, like you mentioned. And then by the end of the movie, it's like, okay, it's like, yeah, where do you go when you die? But then, oh, hey, it turns into this full-blown, like, horror movie. Like, there is this supernatural force coming after you. And it kind of, almost in a way, kind of this is not the right word I want to use, but this is the word that's coming to my mind. It kind of disjoints itself from everything else that came before that third act. Mm-hmm. Because it went to, the whole movie works, and then all of a sudden it gets to that scene that we see in the trailer, which is the Ellen Page character, where she's getting dragged, through the hallway, and then we see her very oddly, and for whatever reason, it didn't really work for me. Shockingly, they kill her character with 40 minutes left in the movie, even though she is the main character that we've been following. Which I don't mind when movies do that. It's like, we're taking this main character, this actor that everyone well knows, and that it looks like it's the lead, and then we're gonna just turn the movie on its head and kill that character and have you follow all these other characters. That's fine if it's done right, and if it's executed right, and if the payoff of that works. Unfortunately for Flatliners, it was very tipsy-topsy, because it did feel like Nina Dobrev probably was the secondary main character of the movie, but we've been following Ellen Page so much in that movie that it was like, oh, okay, now she's dead. Now I've lost all interest in this movie.
Definitely. I also take problem with the conclusion that the characters made, that this discovery needed to be destroyed, and everything that contained evidence, all their data, just needed to be eradicated, no longer remembered. And and some delusional part of me was like, hey, this might be a good therapeutic way of having people deal with their past traumas and the things they can't forgive themselves for. What if you make people go through this, and then they forgive themselves, and they get smarter and more talented? Not just me being
make people go through this horrible experience, yes. Have them almost die, and be like, see, this is why you shouldn't be a dick.
Yeah, but they're better after that.
They are better after that. Yeah, okay. I mean, that kind of works, yes.
So at that point, I'm like, well, come on, guys. I get it. You're gonna find out that everyone's gonna find out that you're partly responsible for your friend's delusional death, because it still doesn't seem like it was actually some supernatural force that was attacking her. Even though she was dragging herself, kicking back.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I was just upset that after all of that, their friend died, and she gave up her life for this. They just decided, you know what? It's not worth it to push forward with this. Kind of upset. I'm the sociopath that wants movies to go further. You already opened Pandora's box. Carry it on. But they didn't. So I was very upset with that conclusion the characters made.
Yeah, when you put it that way, it's like, I mean, they could have done more with that. Yeah, for sure.
But I wanted to understand. You mentioned sequel. Was that correct? You tried to draw it as a sequel?
So when the movie was first announced, it was the wording of the report and the reports that came afterward were that the movie wasn't going to be a remake or a reboot. It was going to be a sequel because Kiefer Sutherland, who plays the head doctor with all these, the one with the cane in the movie, he was in the original. He was in the original Flatliners, the one from the 90s. So everyone kind of assumed that he'd be playing the same character. In the final cut of the movie that we saw, it makes no mention of him being part of this experiment or anything like that. But there was a deleted scene or like an alternate scene that came out. I don't know if it came out online or just the description came out. But in that scene that was released online, it makes mention like it's them talking to him, and he kind of teases and hints at the fact that he did something or that he knew someone that did something similar to this. So that would have connected the movie to the original, kind of making it a sequel. But obviously the version that we saw in theaters, it made it feel more like it was actually a reboot rather than what it was supposed to be.
Definitely, yeah. Okay, that's what it was. Didn't see that. I was not aware of that. That so-called prequel or original film, but with him in it.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was just a little bit before our time. It was like 91, no, actually it was like 93 or 94.
Right.
So,
you're either in
before we can remember,
womb,
yeah.
or not even in the womb.
We're not even in the womb.
Yeah.
We're just, we're still young kids. We don't know what movies are. So
a twinkle in our parents' eye.
Exactly.
Yeah, that was yeah. I definitely I don't want to call it the worst. I mean, I'm not gonna disagree with you. But
yeah, it definitely wasn't
really
the worst
caught my
movie.
attention.
Yeah.
But I think you said disappointment, dishonorable. You
this was a dishonorable mention. Yes.
Yes, I feel it. I feel you're content to call it. So I did invest my time, and at the end I was like, wow, I feel dishonored.
All right, so those are the dishonorable mentions. We're going to move on to the main list, which is the disappointments, least liked / worst movies of the year. So I'm just going to rattle them off, and then we'll kind of like what we did with Flatliners. We'll if there's a movie that sticks out, we'll go more deep dive into it. So.
Did you not want to discuss the other ones? I mean, I know I didn't watch them, but
no, I mean I'm just saying dishonorable mentions sounds enough. I mean, besides, I was really teeter-tottering about putting Rings in the main list, just because when I walked out of the theater, I was like, this is so bad. Why did I spend money on this? But Rings had some story. I mean, not story-wise, but production design-wise. It looked pretty good, so I think maybe that's why it's barely saved itself with the production design on that. So that's kind of why I put it over there. All right, so I'm gonna rattle off some of these movies and we'll jump back into them. So my main list of disappointments, least liked / worst movies of the year of 2017 are Alien Covenant, A Cure for Wellness, Geostorm, Ghost in the Shell, The Circle, The Dark Tower, The Mummy, Suburbicon, and Transformers: The Last Night.
Okay. That's a pretty lengthy list. That's why I like you. I like you really watch
it is a pretty lengthy list. I watch a lot. If you haven't noticed by now, for all the other podcast listeners, I watch a shit ton of movies.
Cool, I love movies.
So I will undoubtedly, no mistake, and be proud of this, say that Transformers: The Last Night was one of the worst movies of 2017. I'm pretty sure I shit all over this movie when I did a spoiler review for the podcast, and I remember this because I wanted to bring it up, so I pulled out the line that I said. I said that the Transformers: The Last Night is a steaming pile of combined shits that you only fueled by buying a movie ticket.
And you know what? I actually recall much of your criticism during that time period. And I remember the movie poster. I asked you, why does it look like a Star Wars movie poster?
Because what did I say? Because it wishes to be like Star Wars. Is that what I said? That sounds like something I would say.
Well, I'm gonna be honest with you. Transformers. After I don't know. I think after the second one, I was pretty much getting bored. Even during the second one, I was a little bored. I really liked the first one, but something about it was that the action with kind of this weak storyline and this kind of prophetic dialogue. I usually like that kind of stuff, but for some reason, Transformers wasn't doing it with me, and now we're doing it with Last Night. I really want to hear what you have to say more in depth. I don't know. It was silly the way Optimus Prime came to his senses. And then Bumblebee was like, "Dude, it's me." I was like,
I had oh my god, I had a lot of problems. I had so many problems with this movie, but I'm glad you brought that up because I was going to mention that. So throughout this whole series, throughout all 5 films at this point, Last Night being the 5th film, Bumblebee has not had his voice. Mm-hmm. First of all, these are fucking alien. Yes, you can swear on the podcast, by the way. These are fucking alien technology, whatever robots. And they can't fix his voice for 5 movies?
Yeah. Even Megatron.
And then
even Megatron fucking gets killed like 3 times.
Yeah, he dies 3 times and he comes back somehow. I don't know why. And they fucking work with him to take down whatever is going on in the movie. It makes no sense. This movie makes no sense. But anyway, going back to Bumblebee.
Yeah.
He doesn't have his voice throughout the whole franchise. And all of a sudden, right before Optimus is about to kill him, he gets his voice back for that one little bit. And then after we see him, after all the threat is gone, after whatever her name was, the villain, mm-hmm. he goes back to scanning the radio to talk. You have his voice. Why are you still using the radio to talk?
It's a miracle. Miracles only last so long.
I seriously, it was one of the only times that I can remember sitting in a movie theater, watching a movie from beginning to end, shaking my head, and just lowering my head in disappointment from all the stupid things this movie did.
Right. And I'm largely disappointed that, okay, fine. The whole premise that I got from the trailer was that Optimus Prime was going to be a very, very crucial threat to our heroes.
Yes. And
if I'm not mistaken, it might be, he only had a very brief moment where he was actually the villain.
Optimus was in the movie for like 8 to 10 minutes.
Like what?
And he was evil for like 3 of them.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, I thought maybe he was going to be on a rampage the entire time. And then they find, like, I'm not going to try to get into this, but the Fate of the Furious, right? Vin Diesel was propped up as the villain, right? He was the opposition. But that was from the end to the beginning, where later you discover what's going on throughout the movie. But Optimus, I got the same premise that was going to happen, but no, they show Optimus going through this journey, and then he goes through his own struggles, and then finally he arrives, and he has a 3-minute fighting scene, and then boom, it takes a single person to say, "Dude, stop! I'm your friend," and he's like, "Oh yeah, what the fuck kind of acid was I on?" So I was disappointed about that. That's one thing I'm disappointed about. Besides the voice of Bumblebee, is like, wait a minute, you were supposed to be kicking ass. And you just come back for a small scene, and then you come back to take out the witch, or I don't even know what she was, to be honest. I forgot. The sorceress.
You can just say she's okay. It doesn't matter. She can be whatever she wants. Because the movie didn't care either. And the other thing, it's like, okay, we assume obviously with the title Transformers: The Last Night, you would assume that it's Optimus Prime, but no, it's Mark Wahlberg's character. Yeah. And then we have this ridiculous scene, and I was like, you know what? No. Like, I get it. This movies are about escapism. Transformers is probably, just turning your brain off and, just having fun. When one of the other knights that are there and Cade Yeager, that's Mark Wahlberg's character, he's trying to protect Optimus. He pulls his hand out, and the sword pops up from the amulet that was stuck on him at the beginning of the movie, and he stops it. First of all, no. Okay, no. There is no way a human being, despite him looking like Mark Wahlberg, can stop a full swing from a Transformer. I don't care what he has. There is no way he can stop that.
Marky Mark.
That would have torn his arm off, or it would have killed him.
Wasn't it kind of he was a descendant of Marlin or something? Wasn't that the premise?
Yeah. No. The lady was a descendant of Merlin.
She was. Yeah. Right. And they were protecting it.
And and he had this. I don't know. I guess I don't know if he was connected somehow, or like the amulet, gave him apparently superpowers to stop a full swing of a Transformer. But yeah.
I was thinking, the Wickwickies were gonna be the descendants of the Knights, but who knows what happened to them?
And they don't even mention, I mean, they briefly mention Sam, which was, of course, Shia LaBeouf's character, and that was it. Mm-hmm. It was like, oh yeah, we have this line of, protectors and Wickwickies, and then they just fastly just gloss over that, which made no sense.
Well, that's Star Wars. That's Transformers for you, right?
That is Transformers for you, yes.
Yeah, dude, just because of the poster. But yeah, let's this is Michael Bay, right? If I'm not mistaken.
Yes, this is Michael Bay.
Yeah, the Dinobots was a good concept. The
Dinobots. Such a huge hype for the Dinobots in the last movie, and they were only in it for like 3 minutes.
Again.
And we had seen all of them in the trailers.
Again, yes. This is what they do. So, yeah, I mean, I know it's called The Last Night, but it's probably not the last movie for them. That's my... right, because the way it ended,
they're
coming back. That's just a major disappointment. And you know what, Chris? We're going to go watch it.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Yes. I don't know if you want to move on from that, but kind of want to get into Alien Covenant.
Yeah, let's do it.
So, I mean, I'm not sure if you were saying it was the worst.
I was disappointed.
Disappointed. You know what? I really like the Alien Covenant, considering what Prometheus did. I love, once again, the concept is there, but I don't know, Prometheus just didn't do it for me, so I was waiting for this. And I wanted the Earth, the humanoid people. Those are kind of
the engineers,
our founders, our creators, right?
Yeah, the engineers.
I wanted them to be more. Yeah, I wanted them to be more part of this, and that's where I was disappointed. But for some reason, I don't know. I like the fact that David is just this lunatic android. He's obsessed with the fact that he cannot create, and he finally finds this method to create, but yet at the same time destroy an undeserving race of species of humans. It's almost the Luciferian idea. Lucifer turned against the gods because Lucifer felt the humans were unworthy of God's love. Therefore, Lucifer wanted to end humanity and take reign of God's power. And therefore, that was his role. That's why I just love those kind of those mythological themes. So I don't know. That's why this movie caught my attention a lot.
Yeah, and I like that. I mean, and David is definitely the highlight of Alien Covenant and of Prometheus, and that of course has a lot to do with Michael Fassbender, who plays him. And I like David. I like him as a character, and I think he is, like you mentioned. I think one of the interesting things about his character is his intention, his ideas, and like you said, very Luciferian. And I liked Alien, and the reason why I was disappointed by Alien Covenant, and it wasn't because I wanted to be. I wanted to like the movie, and for me, Alien Covenant it had this thing where it was a good movie until, for me, it stopped kind of becoming a good movie. I'm not saying it was a bad movie. I know Alien Covenant, and especially Prometheus as well, gets a lot of flack for what it's doing with the Alien franchise, and what it's whatever opinion people have. I didn't mind Alien Covenant as much. I just was slightly disappointed by it. And part of that is because a lot of things that were set up in Prometheus, like the engineers, like we were talking about, like you wanted to see more of them. I definitely wanted to see more of them. And in the movie, it just shows David kill them all with their own creation, which is very, obviously going into the mythology of aspect of things. But I would have loved to see at least some pushback, like maybe they all didn't die. Maybe there's still some engineers in the planet. I mean, that was a big ass planet. There's no way David killed all of them in one foul swoop. That was slightly disappointing. The fact that we don't see, the fact that we don't see, well, we do see, but we don't see Noomi Rapace's character in the movie, Shaw. We see the after effects of what happens to her when she's lying on the table and her chest bursted open. But that was kind of disappointing because it was like throughout the whole movie we're kind of wondering, okay, like we know it takes place several years after Prometheus, but still, I mean, the whole concept of the two of them escaping and her having her belief in Prometheus, because throughout all of Prometheus she still believes, hey, these people are gods, they created us, I want to know why. And she never gets to find out because David kills them all. And David himself becomes essentially, in his eyes, a god himself. And when he was talking to Walter, which was the other android, he's quoting the Ozymandias, the poem Ozymandias. And which, by the way, that was a great scene because I can probably watch a movie of Michael Fassbender reading the Yellow Pages and that'll be okay. But just that scene together and them talking about, do they deserve us, or who should be like the real, who should be the servants and who should be, I guess, for the lack of a better term, the king. That scene was great. But the scenes they have together were awesome, and the fact that Michael Fassbender was able to completely have a performance as one character as David, and then have another performance as Walter, who is not as crazy and homicidal as David. The fact that he was able to it's gonna sound weird, play off himself was one of the better parts of Alien Covenant. Now, obviously, the whole thing about Alien is the xenomorphs. Xenomorphs finally pop up at the end of the movie, but by then it's like, throughout the whole movie I was like, when are they going to get to the spaceship? And then when they get to the spaceship I was like, oh, well, I already know what happens. The movie's not over. There's still like 10-15 minutes left because we don't see the alien attacking them. So at that point I was like, all right, like I've kind of lost some interest.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I see what you're saying. They wait to pop out the badass at the very last couple of minutes, so okay, you're either gonna crash the ship or you're gonna kill this motherfucker. So it's kind of like Prometheus. It's like, okay, we're gonna crash the ship, and then we're still gonna deal with, in Prometheus it was the engineer. Now it's the actual xenomorph himself. Yeah, I think that's a fair criticism of it. That's what they always do to us. They catch us with the trailer, and then they make us wait for the exciting part. Definitely. Yeah, and the trailers were fantastic. That was another reason why I was like slightly disappointed, because I was like, oh, okay, this is what, first of all, everyone complained about Prometheus, and when they saw the Alien Covenant trailer, they're like, yeah, this is what Prometheus should have been. And then, they finally see the movie and they're like, why? Yes. Oh man, well, I mean, I'm guessing this is the last we see of David. It's kind of under my presumption it is.
Well, yeah, well, the Alien franchise is up in the air, considering that Disney bought 21st Century Fox. So they now own the Alien franchise once the deal goes through.
Yeah.
So it should be very interesting. I mean, unless Fox is like, let's pump out another Alien movie that comes out next year before the 18 months is over, which is a bad idea.
Though. Yeah.
Well, yeah, which would be a very bad idea because you're rushing a movie.
Yeah.
So it should be interesting. I mean, and this is the other part about Alien Covenant. It's like, okay, we went through all this. I'm slightly disappointed, but I still want to see what happens next. I still want to see where David takes all of this. Right. What David does next within this world. I mean, we obviously know where he's going to end up because, these movies are a prequel to Alien, but how he got to that point is what I'm wondering.
My presumption is all the colonists on the ship, he's going to use them as what's that word? Hosts for the xenomorphs.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty much.
But then what happens? Where do they go from there?
Right, exactly. Yeah. So many new xenomorphs now exist, and you have a ship. You're right. Where are they gonna land? How is it that they spread out? What method is he using to transport this across the universe? And here's another question that this is now theory. I always wonder, how does this tie into the Predator world? That's something that I've always questioned.
That's where things get a little murky.
Yeah, I thought the Predator race was like a ancient civilization.
Yeah, I mean,
about xenomorphs.
Yeah, I mean that's where things get a little murky, and I think at that point it's like we don't question these kind of things. But no, yeah, you're right. It's like wait a minute, like you guys are in the future. Have you guys just been around longer than we thought? Like, what? What is Alien in the future? Like, I don't know.
Yeah. What about Danny Glover? What about
exactly? Yeah. Where do they all go?
Probably alternate universe probably, but that's I want to watch it. I love the movie, but I guess you're right. The disappointment's there, and I'm kind of upset that it's in your disappointment range. But
yeah, I mean, I was too, but I mean, at the end of the day, yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, I gotta be honest, but at the end of the day, it's also I also feel like I need to put it somewhere, like on a list. Like I want to talk about it, like I want to have this, debate and conversation about it. And at the same time, it's like I don't want to put it in my favorites or honorable mention because I don't think it deserves to be there. Because this year, despite what people say, it was a very good year for movies. Despite ticket sales, officially being down from last year, but yeah, I just it wasn't a bad movie, and I think and that's why I said as a disappointment, because I don't want to give people the impression it's like, oh, I thought Alien Covenant just sucked, because that's not the case, because there were good things about Alien Covenant.
So I thought I heard you say that the Dark Tower was on this list.
Yeah, and the Dark Tower, for me, the Dark Tower's on the list for it's more of a personal reason. So when I started really following the movie news cycle, that was around 2005, 2006. And that's when I really started, getting into movies and how, not just, what was seeing on screen, but what was going on behind the scenes and stuff like that. So that's when I started following it. And it was around that time when the Dark Tower movie was going to get made. So it had been announced like, hey, the studios were looking for someone to bring the Dark Tower to life. And since then, again, this is going back all the way to 2005, 2006, and now it's 2007. Well, now it's 2018, but the movie came out last year, 2017. And I've been following this project for so long, from the project going to studio, from having director, from going, having this actor to having this actor, just about to sign on, and then all of a sudden backs out the last minute. So for me, finally seeing the Dark Tower on the big screen and seeing what could have been is what disappointed me, because I haven't read all the Dark Tower books. I will admit that. I read probably about half of the first book, and I stopped reading it because it wasn't my copy, and I had to get the copy back to someone, and I was kind of disappointed by that. But I had read half of the book, and so I kind of knew the gist of it, of what the story was about, and there's a lot of stuff there. The Dark Tower is a very meaty, I guess you would say, franchise. Put it franchise, because there's like 6-7 books, something like that.
Right.
So seeing what could have been, I did my research and found out, all what happened on the other books. I will go back and read those books when I have time. But seeing what this story and what this, again, franchise is all about, and what could have been, in what could have been the start of a great franchise for the Dark Tower on the big screen, I was kind of disappointed by that. I liked the decision of Idris Elba playing Roland. I know a lot of people were against that because they're slightly racist, although I don't want to admit it. Right. I was okay with Matthew McConaughey playing the Man in Black. I thought that was an interesting casting choice, but I went with it. And the fact that they went PG-13, which ratings don't bother me, but from what I was reading, I thought maybe a rated R Dark Tower would have been a better idea. And also, the movie was really short. It was probably shorter than it should have been. I think it should have been a 2-hour movie.
Right, instead of the 100 minutes or so, right?
Yeah, it was barely 130. Yeah, it was barely an hour and a half. So that really bothered me because I thought the movie could have been just even like 10, 15 minutes longer. Or, no, 15, 20 minutes longer, because you could have just expanded what the Dark Tower really was. Because we kind of get just the Cliff Note version of what the Dark Tower really is. Yeah. And I think that just could have been expanded in a very... Even if it was just an exposition dump, I don't care. Because that would have been a really cool scene, and that really would have gotten everyone who probably doesn't know what the Dark Tower is, and doesn't know what this story is all about, and why the Dark Tower is so important to, for it to stand, and why Roland is the way he is and who he is. So that's why I was disappointed by it. I was disappointed because I saw what the potential was, and unfortunately that's not what we got on screen.
Definitely not. I have a question. Maybe maybe I wasn't paying attention. There was the man with the fucked up skin. I'm sorry if you allow swearing or not on your podcast.
I do allow swearing.
He was the one with the messed up skin.
Are you kidding me? Of course I allow fucking swearing on my podcast.
I don't know what happened to him, and I'm not sure if he's supposed to show up in the other series.
Which one?
He was the guy with the messed up skin. He really had really terrible skin. And
yeah. I think what they were just trying to do there was trying to show off characters from the book, or that certain race of the book.
And that's what I didn't. I was like, hey, wait a minute, because the young man, the dreamer, or what they call him, what is he called? He's like a psychic. The shine, right?
The shine.
He has this dream, and he talks about the Man in Black. He talks about the gunslinger, and then he talks about even the one with the terrible skin. And they even have this scene where he's in the evil base with the Man in Black, and the Man in Black is like, dude, go put something on your face. I don't want to look at you. I'm like, yeah, that's pretty funny, But then the guy just like, I don't see him anymore. So I'm seeing that there's more to this piece of literature that they just try to reduce in such a small film. And they never do that with Lord of the Rings or Harry Potter. They try to include as much as possible within 2 hours. And here you go, you got an hour and a half movie where you try to throw some things out there. And I love the Man in Black. I love how he was just telling people to shut up, and they would just stop talking, stop breathing. He was kind of like this pedophile, luring little children. So that was pretty creepy.
A little bit, yeah. Especially that scene in the park where he's talking to that little girl.
He's like, he whispers to her, and she's just like, "Hey." I'm like, "What the fuck was that?" But I like that kind of devilish character that he portrayed, the Man in Black. But I wasn't really impressed with the last fighting scene between him and the gunslinger Roland. I don't know about that.
Yeah, that was a little. Because the other thing was like we pretty much saw most of it in the trailers. So we saw him lift the really cool shot of him lifting the bullets in the air and then catching them on the gun and shooting it off. But yeah, I mean that final fight did leave a little. It was very underwhelming.
Yeah, I was hoping the sorcerer, the Man in Black, was like gonna do some, they were gonna, exchange some blows. But he was pretty much untouchable until that last part where he was just like, I kill with my heart. And then boom! It's like you gotta just take the aim sometimes to get lucky. Like, motherfucker, the whole time
that's what you gotta
do. You're a G. You're literally catching every bullet. And that one time, you're just like, fuck, I fucked up. I'm like, son of a bitch.
I fucked up and now I'm dead. Or maybe. We don't know.
Right, I didn't read the whole series. You're right. Yeah, that's a very... but I was hoping that they would make it interesting enough to where they want to. So, I mean, since you're in this realm, this industry, are they going to continue it?
They're very undecided at the moment. I think there was... some... I mean, here's the other thing about it. The original plan for the Dark Tower, and this is when Ron Howard was attached to direct. And this was probably just a few years ago, maybe a little bit more than that. The plan was that they were going to do 3 movies, and in between the 3 movies, they were going to do a miniseries and release them on TV with all the characters from, not all the characters, but some of the characters from the movie being in the TV series. But the TV series is going to follow these other characters that probably would be introduced in the second movie. So anyone who who was all over the Dark Tower would notice these characters and notice these things. So that was the original plan, and there was some talks about potentially doing that for this movie, having a movie, doing a TV movie or a TV miniseries, and then jumping off into a sequel. The thing was that the Dark Tower didn't make enough money at the box office, which we all know is the deciding factor of whether or not a movie gets a sequel. So they didn't do enough. And so right now I think they're just kind of deciding what they're going to do. I will be very surprised if they do a sequel, but I would somewhat welcome it, depending on who's involved and how they approach it.
All right. Well, like you said, I think what was his name? Idris, right? That's how you say his name.
Idris Elba. Yeah.
I like him as a gunslinger. Now I'm gonna give him that, and I would be interested in seeing his adventures. But if they don't, I wouldn't be too disappointed. I'll move on with life and wait for maybe him to reappear in some kind of Thor film or something, or whatever else.
Oh well, he plays Hemdell.
I'm sorry.
He plays Hemdell. He plays the guy with the guardian of the Bifrost.
Badass there. So all for this guy's an actor. I don't look at color.
Yeah, there you
go.
Racist. Yeah. No racists allowed in my podcast.
Yeah. I don't know. I actually forgot what other films you. I think you said Ghost in the Shell and some other ones.
Yeah, I mentioned Ghost in the Shell. Ghost in the Shell, Cure for Wellness, Geostorm, The Circle, The Mummy, and Suburbicon were the other movies that were on that list.
You got it. You literally did get a lot.
I got a lot. Yeah.
I didn't see Ghost in the Shell, which I'm kind of disappointed. I wanted to see it, but I'm not familiar with the anime.
Mm.
So it wasn't really on my bucket list. I did see The Circle, and I was going to see The Mummy, but then he was like, you know what, Brendan Fraser did it for me for mummies, so I'm going to leave it at that, Tom Cruise. So I don't know if you wanted to explore any of those. And then, yeah, The Circle's the only one I believe I actually saw.
So, yeah, I won't mention too much. Geostorm and Cure for Wellness, I won't really get into those. For the Cure for Wellness, I'll just say, interesting concept, very terrible execution. Geostorm, it's your run-of-the-mill apocalyptic kind of movie. If you've seen Day After Tomorrow or like Armageddon or 2012 or something like that, you pretty much seen Geostorm. Just with more questionable acting. Suburbicon, that was kind of disappointing. It had a really good cast, but for whatever reason the movie just didn't work out too well. And the movie, for the promotional for the movie, I should say, the promotion, didn't really do the movie justice, because you watch the trailers, you think you're going into one movie, you actually go watch the movie, it's very, very different from what you're expecting and what you're anticipating. Very, very different. That's all I will say about that. So Ghost in the Shell. So Ghost in the Shell. This was a movie that got an enormous amount of hate. I've never seen any amount of hate for a movie since I've been following the movie news cycle than Ghost in the Shell. One.
Now, was this both pre viewing and after?
This was mostly previewing. I try to stay away from the reception of how people reacted, unless it was right in front of me. But yeah. So obviously, Ghost in the Shell, it had this enormous controversy surrounding it with the whitewashing controversy, which is the thing. This movie pretty much kickstarted the whitewashing controversy in Hollywood because they casted Scarlett Johansson in the movie, and a lot of the Asian Americans and even people who were not Asian American were very upset that a white woman was being cast in a primarily Japanese story, which I talked about that on the podcast. I thought they had a very valid point, but at the same time, this is Hollywood, and there are some well-known Japanese actors, but those actors are not going to sell a movie opposed to Scarlett Johansson. It's just it's just a fact. And it's a very shitty fact. It's a very sad fact, but that is ultimately what it is. And Hollywood is a business. They want to make money.
Commercializing.
Exactly. Yeah.
Exactly. I agree with you.
So at that point, I didn't want to, go really into it because of that when I was talking about it the first time. But I see when I watched the movie finally, there was that final twist in the movie, and I could see why people were very mad. And I kind of at that point, and I don't usually do this, I kind of joined their side at that point. I was like, I can see why they're upset. And I hate doing that because it's like, I want to stand on my ground. I want to stand with it unless it's like really obvious. And it was really obvious for this one. So I was like, you know what? No, you guys got a good point. So I was, but for the most part, Ghost in the Shell was pretty entertaining until that final twist is revealed. And we're like, you know what? No. Why did I sit through this? This is dumb. Do you want to say something?
No, I mean, I'm just lost in this fact that here you can truly make a phenomenal anime into something live action, and you drop the ball. That's like the coolest thing, man. Growing up with these things, and that's the only reason why I want to watch it, because I like anime, and I have a lot of friends who are much more into it. They follow it much more closely than I do. But just because of the concept that we as young viewers would watch this stuff, and you're making a movie out of it, and you realize that it didn't really make a lot of money, and the reviews were terrible. It's like, great. I'll just see if it comes on Netflix.
Yeah, I mean, you know what? I'd still recommend it. Because the movie has a lot of great visuals, and like I mentioned, it's pretty good up until kind of probably around the halfway point is when it starts kind of going down, and then when that final twist comes in, you're like, okay, yeah, no. So I'd still recommend it. I would still recommend, because the movie does have some amazing visuals, and the world that the movie's in is a world where I'm like, you know what? I wouldn't mind, stepping in here for, a few minutes and then, coming back to my world, because that world just kind of seems really daunting. But yeah.
Yeah, that's well, I'll take your advice, and I'll wait for it to come on Netflix or Hulu.
Yeah. So I do want to mention about The Mummy, because The Mummy was definitely one of my disappointments, probably my biggest disappointment of the year, because I was really looking forward to seeing what Universal was going to do with their new shared Monsters universe, because this was supposed to kick off that shared Monsters universe. So where we're going to get the Mummy, where we're going to get the Wolfman, we're going to get Dracula, where we're going to get Creature from the Black Lagoon, Frankenstein, all together back on the big screen. And I'm a huge fan of those old movies, the old black and white movies. So I was pretty excited. And then as it got closer to the release date for The Mummy, I started getting this feeling where I was like, this probably won't be any good. And it got to the point where when I was sitting in the movie theater, I was like, okay, it's gonna be good. It's gonna be good. And I walked out, and I looked at my brother, who I was with when I watched the movie, and we both had the same reaction. It was mediocre.
Oh shit. So would you say that Brendan Fraser's The Mummy tops it off?
You know what? It's kind of a sad feeling to say that, but yes, I would say the Brendan Fraser movie was better.
Dang.
And I liked some of the things they did with I like the fact that they had a female mummy. I like Sofia Bontella. She was a great choice to go with, and what they did with her character was good until they decided to do something. And going back to my common phrase that I've used so far on the podcast, is really dumb. Because it got to the point where at the end where I'm like, did you seriously just do that? Like, that was, you build up this whole thing, and then at the end of the movie you kind of just like, nope, we're just gonna turn it around, we're gonna do this instead. And it was at that point where I internally said, well, fuck you too then, I'll just walk out and go watch something else. And that's the feeling I had at the end of the movie. I was like, you know what, no, screw this movie, it's mediocre.
No. Now I want to ask, because I had the basic premise. I had a family member who watched it. She was essentially, she felt she was being robbed of the throne. She was the daughter of the pharaoh, and he then got someone else pregnant, some other lady pregnant, and he had a son. So in order to maintain her power, she murders the son, the baby, and the mother, so she can take over. But then she devotes her soul to some kind of demon, and then she needs to sacrifice a human, a man, and that's essentially supposed to be Tom Cruise. What is it that got dumb? For spoiler alert, I really want to know.
Yeah. So that is the basic idea. So the reason why, I don't know why, I forget the reason why it's Tom Cruise when she wakes up from the prison she was in. I forget the reason why. I guess because it's Tom Cruise, I guess that's the only reason. So at the end of the movie, again, spoiler alert for all those people out there, Tom Cruise is because the whole movie he's been with this other woman played by Annabella Willis, and she dies off camera. Like, we get this idea that she drowns. And, at this point, he's like, he's feeling very sorry, and he kind of just drops down to his knees, and he sees Amenet play the mummy. And I don't know exactly how it happened, because I've forgotten at this point, but something happens. There's a dagger involved. So he somehow gets the dagger off her and stabs himself. So he kills himself, and he basically just takes the power of... the demon, by the way, is it's the Egyptian god Set, which is I think for whatever reason I'm forgetting my Egyptian mythology, but it's Set is kind of the underground god. Yeah,
the god of darkness.
Yes, basically, and so he gets the power of Set, and basically he's able to fight it off somehow, because again because it's Tom Cruise, so he's able to fight it off, and he kills her. He kills the Amenet. He kills the mummy.
Wait,
easily
with the power of Set,
with the power of Set. Yeah, so he kills her that way, like in 2 minutes, which is very disappointing. And then he goes over to the woman, and I forgot her name, but he goes over to the woman and he revives her. And when she wakes up, Tom Cruise is doing his best Smeagol impression in the corner. He's like, "No, don't look at me. You're not gonna like what you see," and he disappears. And so they basically pull a switcheroo where it's like the mummy. This whole movie, we're seeing the mummy that is Amenet, and then at the end of the movie, basically what the assumption we're supposed to assume is Tom Cruise is now the mummy. He's the actual mummy character now.
Right. Yeah, because he was pretty much dead.
Yeah. It's dumb.
Huh.
It was dumb.
They did. Well, was he ever mummified?
No, he wasn't mummified. They do this very I guess in their way it was very clever, because there's a shot at the end of the movie before we see him. He has his hand bandaged up in mummy rags, basically. But that's it. That was their way of being clever. Like, oh, he's the new mummy because he has mummy bandages over his arm. Just really dumb.
So did they play the Monster Mash at the end credits?
They should have, because that probably would have been better. Because I would have walked out of the theater with a smile on my face.
The Monster Mash. Oh, that's great. All right, well, there you go, The Mummy.
My vocal support for The Mummy. There you go. Yeah, go watch it. Go be disappointed as much as I was.
All right, yeah, I'll consider it. That's you have a pretty extensive list, I have to say there.
Yeah. What was The Circle? That was the last one. I don't want to get too into The Circle. I don't want to make this podcast any longer than it has to be. But The Circle, interesting concept. The concept is great. I know it's based off a book. I haven't read the book. Got a great cast. You got Emma Watson in there. You got Tom Hanks in there. You got John Boyega in there. Karen Gillan's in there. Patton Oswalt's in there as well. This awesome cast. Great concept. How in the hell is this movie so bad? That was the impression I had when I walked out. How is this movie so bad?
In the age of social media, you're expecting them to capture it and make it as attractive as possible. And I don't know, the kind of suspense that was added to it. Yeah, no, it didn't really go well with the theme of it. Them running around trying to cause exposure. I don't know. I wasn't feeling that portion of it. I think the drama of it was real. The humiliation, right? But
yeah, I mean that was Karen. I think the Karen Gillan. That's the thing. It's like Emma Watson's the main lead, but it worked better with Karen Gillan's character, which is her best friend. Because she's in the movie and she's like, oh, come work over here, and oh, now you're here, it's gonna be great that we're working together, and then like she slowly disappears, and then you don't see her again until like the halfway point of the movie, and she's just this completely different character, and then we never see her again until the very end, and that's when Emma Watson's like, oh yeah, we're gonna fight the man, we're gonna expose everyone. And at that point, it's like, oh, well, you took the best part of the movie, and she's not even there physically. It's over a phone call.
Which is probably still being collected through the circle.
Exactly. So it's like, oh, no, they should. And how did they not find that out? That was so dumb. You just brought something to my attention. This now makes me hate this movie even more.
Yeah, I would have liked it if they would have ended on a more negative note. Because they kind of showed they took down the Mogul giants, or like at least the face of the entity of the organization, but they could have it kind of alluded to the point that we add power to this kind of technology, and as long as we can continue to contribute, it could have been more deeper. It could have been philosophical. It could have gone further into it and pretty much alluded to this fact that this shit isn't going away. But they kind of went. They went into a gleeful like, "Oh, we did it!"
Yeah.
So, I don't know.
I would have rather. The best way I could have put it was like I wanted it to be more like a Black Mirror episode, where it's like, okay, yeah, we get somewhat. It looks like we get somewhat of a happy ending, but at the end of the day, it's like, no, this thing that you were fighting this whole time. It is still out there. It's still, even if it's just a little tiny piece, it's still out there. That's kind of what I wanted from the movie. I wanted it to be, maybe I was spoiled because at that point I was kind of binge watching Black Mirror, so maybe I wanted it to be a little bit more like that. But still, it's still.
I think that's where we're getting it from, Black Mirror. That's why.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm actually very excited about your best, because I think there's some movies that you haven't mentioned yet, so I'm thinking they're in your best mentioned.
Oh, well, that's a good little segue, Tony. I didn't even tell you to do that. So let's move on. I love my segues, and I didn't even have to hint at
Sorry,
you.
I really didn't know how to go in on this.
No, that's perfect. This is perfect. So let's move on then, thanks to Tony, to my other list, which is the best slash favorite movies of 2017. So like the other, the other list we just talked about, I'm gonna do some honorable mentions. So if you know me in any sort of way, you know that my lists are generally big because, and I've mentioned this on the podcast on other occasions, I tend to enjoy a lot more movies than other people, and I tend to have my lists be very big because, again, I just tend to enjoy a lot of movies that some people just like to crap on, or some people are like, whatever. I like to add those movies to my list because it's just more fun to have a bigger list so you can have a bigger discussion and stuff like that. So I'm going to mention my honorable mentions first. And like I mentioned, it's that's pretty big. So I'm just going to run them off. We don't have to talk about all of them. So my honorable mentions, and by the way, these are all in alphabetical order because I used to rank the movies from like 10 or 15 to 1. I stopped doing that because it was too much work. So now I just do them all in alphabetical order. So my honorable mentions are Blade Runner 2049, Detroit, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, Darkest Hour, It, Kong Skull Island, Lady Bird, Logan Lucky, Molly's Game, Power Rangers. Yes, I have Power Rangers because I'm a 90s kid, damn it. Star Wars The Last Jedi, which I know is many people's mixed reactions. Split, and The Disaster Artist. So those are my honorable mentions. Anything pop out to you there, Tony?
Unfortunately, I haven't seen The Disaster Artist. I'm still waiting on that. I want to see it since it was in selected theaters. Split. Did you say Split?
Yes, I did say Split.
Split was. I didn't know. I forgot that Split was 2017. It feels like it was so long ago.
It feels like it was so long ago because it was right at the beginning of the year.
Split was definitely. I actually bought it. I purchased it. That's how much I like.
Oh, that's a very solid purchase.
Yeah. I can give a damn what people say about Star Wars: The Last Jedi. Liked it. You
and I have had a Facebook discussion about Star Wars.
Yes.
A very brief one, but we had one.
We can extend it if we want. Power Rangers. I'm gonna have to take a bold step here. Not the biggest fan. That's fine. It's not for everyone.
I'm
a '90s kid, and I was like fucking hyped about it. It, liked it. Guardians, honestly, first one's better than the Volume 2.
I will also agree with that.
And I'm still waiting to see Blade Runner and Detroit. And then you said Molly's Game, never seen it. Darkest Hour. I think the Darkest Hour was like a historically true movie.
Yeah, it's the Winston Churchill movie with Gary Oldman.
I have to see that because I was big on the movie for FBI, CIA, presidential stuff. I'm big on that stuff. I surprise myself when I don't see it, so I'm kind of upset. But I don't. Whatever you want to jump into, you want me to choose.
Well, I mean, you want to talk about Star Wars? We can talk about Star Wars.
Let's just kick that right. Let's kick it out of gear.
Let's do it.
Fuck what people gotta say about Star Wars. That was a cool movie. I laughed at times. My eyes were just boggled. I saw this movie in 3D, so maybe that could have added to some of it. I love the fact that we get to see the true extent of Princess Leia's power.
That was a very divisive scene. I know there's a lot of people out there that hate it.
Right, and I understand that. But dude, come on, this whole time we know the Force is with her strongly. She's a Skywalker. And there you go, we get to demonstrate because she's just captain and she's smart. Come on, let's fucking give her something. And boom, they gave her this shit. I mean, the thing I was pissed about is she came back without a scratch.
Yeah, she was out for what, half hour, maybe in real time, or an hour or something like that.
Invoked in flames, Not even a piece of scrap metal cut her. So I was, I get it. This is just fictional, but that moment made me laugh and go, oh shit. But I was happy. I kind of was expecting that was her moment to die. I'm thinking these old, and she did pass away, God rest her soul. So I was thinking that was her moment. But I'm just under presumption. By the next film, they're gonna state that they had a funeral with her in the credits, the beginning credits, after burying Princess Leia. Blah blah blah. The galaxy is under threat. So I'm expecting that. But that one scene while people were objectionable to it, I laughed and I was like, cool, dude. What else?
When I first saw that scene, I think I was just so dumbfounded. I didn't say anything. I just sat there like, oh, okay, she can do that, I guess. All right, that's cool. I did hear a few people snickering when that scene happened, and I saw the movie. Admittedly, I saw the movie 3 times. The third time was because we had some tickets lying around and we didn't even know about them till the last minute, so we went to go see it again. But the first time I saw it, which was on Thursday night, which of course will always be filled with the hardcore crowd. There was a few snickers in the audience. The second time I watched it, which was in the IMAX, which again another big hardcore crowd, there was some few snickers there, but not as much as the first time. Third time I saw it, no one snickered. I think it's just because it was so damn early when we saw it. It was like, nah, no one cares. So that scene, it was just. And you're right. Part of me is like, yeah, she has the Force. The Force has always been in there. She's a Skywalker. It's never. It was hinted at in the previous trilogy with her that she had it because she was able to know where Luke was after he got his hand cut off. They teased it right in that scene right before she got blown up. She sensed Kylo flying outside. He was in one of the ships. And so it was like, okay, yeah, she has the Force. I think the reason why it was so divisive was that it just kind of just comes out of nowhere. It's like all this. It's like, okay, yeah, she has the Force. We didn't know she had the Force like that. That she's basically just a magician and she can, like a magnet, and just pop herself back up to the ship. I think maybe that's the reason why people were so divided on that. Is because, okay, yeah, she can have the Force. That's fine, but why are her powers like that? I think maybe that was why people were like that. I honestly I can take it or leave the scene. I will agree. When I first saw it, I was like, okay, this is how they're gonna write her off. And I was like, okay, maybe this is how they're going to do it. And then, they did the scene. I was like, oh, well, she's back. But yeah, I do agree with you. There definitely has to be some sort of time jump in the next movie because, Carrie Fisher's no longer with us, sadly. I highly doubt they're going to do what they've done in the past and have a CGI face on someone else. I highly doubt they'll do that, and I don't think they should do that, especially with Carrie Fisher. So I think there will be a time jump, and yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I understand those sentiments. I was probably in the same theater as you when you heard the snickering.
That was probably you, wasn't it? It was you.
It was snickering out of joy, not.
I should have been like, is that you, Tony?
And honestly, one of the scenes that people I think this is a scene that you're not favorable to. It's the journey that I always forget his name. Our stormtrooper character.
John Boyega. Oh, that's the actor's name. Finn.
Finn. There you go. Finn. Right. Finn and his new friend. They travel to the planet where they're looking for the hacker.
Yeah.
Right, they kind of extended the story. It wasn't even necessary, right? Because they ended up failing, but it exposed the fleet trying to escape to that planet. Right, so that it connects. I see the connections, but that shit was prolonged. But I like the fact that theme was thrown in there because it points to those that sell weapons end up profiting on both sides of any war, and that's true to this day. And this is where I like it because it brings a lot of relevance to our modern history. Those that create the weapons are the war profiteers, and a lot of people miss that point. They like to undertone it because then they make it about the damn llama. I really didn't care about the llamas. I'm not gonna lie. But then you see those kids, and these kids are like the future hope of the rebellion. So I like that scene, and I was pretty sure I got this feeling from you that you thought this could have done without that part.
I think part yes and no. I think yes in the fact that I don't think the whole thing, it shouldn't have been as long as it was. I think if they would have cut that, if they would have slimmed that scene down a little bit, I think I would have been fine. No, in the fact that you're right. It touches on what's going on in real life, which is fine. But I think at the other end of the spectrum, now that we have some time to go back and look at everything, that scene also expands the world. It expands the world that we know, because we're focusing mainly on the Skywalkers and their family and all their family drama and what the hell and what it's causing to the galaxy. But we take this small portion of the movie and we give it to a former stormtrooper who is now turned to the Resistance, right. And this Resistance fighter who works behind pipes all day. That was her first kind of little joke in the beginning of when her character's introduced. She doesn't deal with Resistance fighters. She deals with pipes all day. So we take these two characters who, again, using the term I just used, opposite ends of the spectrum, put them together and send them out on their own adventure. You have this scene where it expands the world, where you see all these characters. You see that there are rich characters. You see that there are characters who profit off the war and profit off, whatever, and they have their own casino and they're off on their own little planet that it looks like is untouchable by the First Order and by the Resistance. And then you give them this adventure, and you meet the character of Benicio del Toro's. His character's name is DJ. I don't think they ever say his character's name in the movie, but his character is named DJ. And you meet him, right. And it's the first time that we're seeing hacking as well. We'd never seen hacking in the original movies, at least not done to this extent.
Right, we had R2-D2.
We had R2 and we had BB-8, and we don't understand those characters, so we don't know what they're saying and what they're doing. But we have this character now. We have this human character with his own little lisp or his little stutter that he has, and you're having this scene where it's like, yeah, you're right. They end up failing at what they're supposed to do, and they get someone else who eventually becomes their downfall to the Resistance. And there was this very interesting argument for that scene by someone on Twitter that I read, and he had this massive thread count. I forgot who it was, and it was just some normal guy who one of my nerdy people that I follow on Twitter retweeted, and it was basically the argument that the scene was done for Finn, because you see Finn in that scene and he's like this, he's super giddy, like this is the first time that he's seen rich people. And I guess what his argument was, okay, now you have this character who was a stormtrooper, who was brainwashed, who was taken as a kid, surrounded by a bunch of rich people, doing something that is going to benefit the Resistance. And his argument was that both Rey and Finn are not officially part of the Resistance. And everything that Finn does at this point of the movie is to protect Rey. His whole character arc, his whole story and everything about him is about protecting Rey. He can care less about the Resistance. He can care less about the First Order. All he wants to do is protect Rey. And it's because of what he sees from Rose, the character that he's with, and the world that, and the conversations he has with DJ. He's like, DJ tells him that scene. It's like, all of this is a machine. Do yourself a favor. Don't be a part of it. And then he has that line at the end when he's about to leave. He's like, "You blow them up today, they'll try to blow you up tomorrow, just like I told you."
Yep.
So it's so that whole scene, what this guy's argument was, from what I can remember, is having Finn go on this journey to finally become a resistance fighter, going from stormtrooper to caring only about himself and caring about protecting Rey to actually finally joining the resistance, because how he puts it was that when he tells Phasma that he's rebel scum, that's it. He finally joins the resistance, and he's willing to die for the resistance, as we see later on when he's about to do his best Leroy and Jenkins impression and dive into the beam that's about to tear down the door. That he's going to die for the cause. He doesn't care anymore. He's dying. He's not dying to protect Rey because he doesn't know where Rey is at that point. He's dying, or I guess he kind of knows, but at this point he's dying for the resistance. He finally has a cause. So that was kind of his argument, that guy's argument for the scene. And when I was reading that, I was like, yeah, I kind of agree with him a little bit. But at the same time, it's like, that scene still could have been really short. I could have done without the as you put them, llamas.
I don't know what they were. Like llamas.
I could have, I could have done with a little less of the comedy in that, like with the little troll putting in coins and BB-8's thing. I could have done without that. Although it serves a purpose later, but I could have done without that anyway.
I feel you. You're right. It could have been shortened, but I think the evolution of Finn is necessary. And this is like a tradition within all the Star Wars films. You have these split scenes, these split stories within the same movie to let you know that all of this is going on at once, and eventually all of it's going to converge into something fine, a finality. So I love where your friend was alluding to. So that's gonna continue to happen, regardless if we like where we're always gonna have our favorite parts of a movie, and that unfortunately is gonna be one part that we favor less, because we were interested in Luke training Rey, and then of course the slowest chase in the universe ever. And,
yeah, pretty much.
I didn't like that part, but I understood what was going on. They couldn't get away. They were boned at that point. So you had only those 3 scenes, and that goes to show that the Star Wars franchise is trying to follow that tradition. Now I want to dive into this because this is a little bit of theory. The epic scene. The lightsaber battle for our generation. For that past year, Rey, and of course Kylo Ren, right? He betrays Snoke, and they fight the Red Army. That was pretty dope. I liked it. I was disappointed because I was like, I don't know who Snoke is still.
Yeah, that's the other thing, and that's the thing I will agree with the disappointment with a lot of people. We build up this character of Snoke, and everyone was having their theories. Everyone was like posting like, oh, this is definitely this character from this comic or from this video game or from the animated series. Like, oh no, it's gonna be him. It's like, no, you're stupid. That's not him. It's gonna be this guy. So you have this whole thing about who Snoke is, and then it's like it goes away in literally a snap of a finger.
Because I'll tell you who he is now. He's dead.
He's dead, yeah. Doesn't matter who he is, he's dead. You wasted all your countless hours on sleeping on trying to figure out who a dead guy is now.
I did. You don't understand. I was into those theories. I hated the one for Mace Windu, but I still read into it. Even though that kind of like, it was 2 theories, right? The theory was, who is Snoke? The other theory was, who the heck is Rey? Both of those theories at the end of this movie kind of just went out the window. And at the end of it, I'm like, well, there's really no excitement to ask those questions anymore, but it still leaves questions for the next film. And now I'm wondering, what happened to those other Jedi that Kylo walked away with the ones that Luke Skywalker was training? Okay, that's one question. Maybe they'll never explore that. they still kind of have to tell us who Snoke was. I still feel like they're holding something back, even though he's dead, and they kind of want to dismiss him. I still feel there's unanswered questions, and Star Wars is gonna figure out a way how to tell us. So that's why I liked it. So it still left me leaving the theater like, okay, I'm upset because they didn't give me what I wanted, but now I'm asking new questions. Gotta love it. That's what I love. I hate it and love it. Gotta.
Yeah, I mean, I walked out. I was like, okay, well, Snoke's dead. Okay, we got that down. Rey's parents may be no one, if you want to take Kylo's word for it. If she's no one, or she really is the lost daughter of someone. I mean, it's not Luke, because otherwise he would be a really shitty parent that he can't remember his own kid. It wasn't Leia or Han Solo, because again, they'd be really shitty parents if they don't know who her daughter was. So if she really is no one, then that's like, okay, that's and then you want to take that, and then you want to take the final shot of the movie, which is the little kid that we saw on the planet, on the rich planet, Cancel Bite. That's the name of the planet. You want to take that image of that little kid who uses the Force to bring his broomstick to him. So that
did happen, right? I didn't make that.
No, that actually happened. I noticed it when I watched it for the first time. I was like, did that kid just use the Force? And then it wasn't until the second time that I saw, I was like, no, yeah, he did use the Force. So he's Force sensitive. So there are other people out there, and again, the last shot is very divisive because it's like, why do we care about this little kid? But if you go back and you think about everything, he has the ring, the rebellion ring, and go back to Rey's heritage being revealed, that she's no one. So she's a nobody helping this cause of the resistance. The resistance and the demise of the First Order, or the dark side, or whatever you want to say, is going to be reliant on a bunch of nobodies. It's not going to rely on a big name. It's not going to rely on a name like Skywalker or Solo or anything like that. It's going to rely on everyday people.
Yes, powerful, and people don't like it, but I think that's what the theme of the movie was trying to get at. Even Finn was a nobody. He swept the.
Yeah, exactly. He didn't have a name. Mm-hmm. He was F1 whatever 217, and then Poe gave him a name, and now he's Finn.
And I'm actually kind of upset for Poe. He was. I get what they did to his character. It was kind of to rise as a leader, and he was more of this reactionary character. But they made him, they really crushed his balls on this one. Like he was wrong. I'm like,
yeah, they really does. Like, oh, you're no longer commander, you're captain. Oh, and you're gonna get shot at by Leia. Oh, and you're gonna not have any more ships. You're gonna be a loner. Everyone's gonna blame you for the deaths of 1,000 people.
Dude, that scene when they're literally trying to flee their dying starship. I could have sworn there was only like 13 pods, and the Empire struck down like 10 of them. I was like,
they were shooting for a while, and those ships didn't look like they were moving that fast. Like, there's a lot of people dead in that scene.
People died. I was like, oh my god, murder.
There's like 30 people left in the Resistance. That's it. Maybe more, maybe less.
Oh man, and I wonder what the conversation is gonna be like with their allies. Like, why didn't you come in to help us?
That's a good question. I mean, yeah. Now you got to do the other thing. It's like, what's gonna happen now?
Yes. So,
what's gonna happen with the Resistance? Like, are those people gonna finally come up and help, or are they just gonna sit back and let them do all the heavy lifting?
And of course, this is all movie magic, so that's why I'm not too upset with it. I live for this. I'm waiting for the Han Solo movie. The Han Solo movie, right? So
yeah, it's called Solo: A Star Wars Story.
Yeah. So I'm waiting for it, and people didn't like Rogue. I thought Rogue was cool. As it ended.
I liked Rogue One.
You like Rogue One, right?
I liked Rogue One. Yeah,
dude, it was cool. The way that it ended, I was like, yeah, that's the way it should have ended. But damn, it was heavy on the heart. The way this one ended, of course, it doesn't always fulfill your expectations, but I gotta give that lightsaber scene that was cool. I liked it. I was telling you, I was watching it in 3D. I was like, dude, dope. I even forgot that I just lost the Emperor. I was like, what?
For that brief second, you're like, oh, this is so awesome. And then it sounds like, oh, that's right, he's dead. Oh, that's right.
So yeah, that's my my Star Wars rant. I really, I'll defend it, and a lot of people don't like it. It's like, whatever, you know. I have to finish.
I mean, there's still defenders out there. There's people out there with you. So I mean, you know, you're not alone.
Thank God. Thank Bob. You know, and I want to take you to task on this next one. Power Rangers.
All right.
I want to know what did you like
I
about
mean,
it?
look, Power Rangers was always going to be very divided. There was going to be people that are going to be like, oh, it's not cheesy. There was actual complaints that the movie was not cheesy enough. Exactly. I don't know. Just people want to find something. So the Power Rangers for me, again, us being 90s kids, we obviously grew up watching Power Rangers. And I walked in, I wasn't really expecting much, to be honest. I wasn't expecting much. And I walked in and I sat there and I watched it. And you know what? I just had a hell of a good time. I just had a lot of fun with it. I thought it was genuinely funny sometimes. There was some pacing issues. There was some tonal issues. Sometimes it would go from like this very serious scene and all of a sudden there'd just be like a really forced in joke. And that kind of took me away a little bit. But overall, I just had a really fun time watching it. And there was one cheesy part. They did the whole... They played the Power Rangers theme from the show in the movie. And part of me was like, this is so stupid. But the other part of me, the 10-year-old in me was like, yeah, fuck yeah. I was wanting to stand up and like, just like, yeah, just pump up my arms. And I was like... And I decided to go with that. I decided to go with the 10-year-old me, younger than 10-year-old me, and just have fun with it. The final battle was pretty rushed. I didn't like what they did to Goldar, because Goldar, was an actual person in the show, and here he was basically Rita's Megazord.
That's it. Yeah, right. Resurrected this thing, and then.
Yeah, so...
They didn't really talk, could just fall.
Yeah, and I didn't like that,
I think that's where we agree. I love the build-up. I love them meeting each other, discovering their powers, new powers, meeting Zordon, and then them having conflict with themselves, right? I like
that's I think that's another reason when I look back on it, that's why I liked it. Because in the original, it was like, okay, yeah, these are just random kids who were friends, basically. Here, they didn't know each other. I mean, they knew of each other, but they didn't really know each other. They weren't, friends. They were people that were forced into it. And I like the fact that the only way they could transform is if, they had complete trust in everybody. The only way you can fully tap into the power of the Power Rangers was being one cohesive team. And I like that. I thought that was really cool.
But then you get towards the end, and Rita, I think I loved her character. I like her approach. She was evil enough. She was good enough antagonist for me. I didn't like. I think it was Alpha 5. What, right?
Alpha 5, yeah.
I didn't like Alpha 5. I'm sorry.
The design was a little weird. If I saw that in real life, I'd probably kick it in the face and run away in the opposite direction.
And his voiceover, I didn't feel it. I wasn't feeling it. I expected that kind of that little squeaky voice. Didn't have it for me. And then, of course, the Megazord. It just looked like a Transformer. It looked like Optimus Prime. I couldn't.
It did look a little Transformer-y. It did. I will admit that. Yeah.
As well, those are things that just really just took it away from me, and I feel the nostalgia you were talking about, because the entire time it's building up, and then my eyes started getting tired, and I didn't zone out. I didn't fall asleep. My eyes were tired, and my seat was uncomfortable, and that's when you want that movie to finish already. So maybe I have to watch it again. I really feel, but remembering what happened towards the end, it's making me cringe, but at the same time I'm like, I hope they make another one.
I will be down. I will be the first person in line to go watch Power Rangers 2.
I see, and that's my thing. That's what makes me a hypocrite. I'm so fast to judge and criticize, but at the same point, I'm just like, yeah, when's it coming out? Tell me, I'll go.
Yeah, see, yeah, exactly. And that's why I put it on my list.
Yeah, I never anticipated what it would be like. It's watchable. It takes away from that kind of kid friendliness that the first Power Ranger movie had brought us. The fight scenes were better, definitely. Because remember, the old Power Ranger was like, yeah, and then they would fake fly into the air. So obviously, the visual effects much better. The fighting scenes a lot more realistic. The hand-to-hand combat was just cool for me. So I definitely like that. As an old Power Rangers fan to a new one, I can continue this. I just think I just set these high expectations for myself because I am such a science fiction kind of person that the way that technology is going, movies are badass, dude. They fucked up. Yeah, they fucked up Transformers. Don't fuck up Power Rangers, please.
Yeah. As long as they do that, I'm okay. Do whatever you want. Just be better than Transformers.
Definitely. And I'm glad that this one's better than the last night.
Oh yeah, no, definitely. I would rather watch this over and over again than watch Transformers the last night again.
Definitely. So yeah, that's my take on those. Those are two of them that kind of made me triggered a little bit. Any other one you would like to dive into a little? I haven't seen, like I said, The Disaster Artist, selected theaters, so not very privileged to see it. Split I watched it. Guardians I've watched. I haven't seen any of the other ones.
Yeah, I mean, The Disaster Artist, it's based, of course, off a book that was also telling the story of how The Room, one of quote unquote one of the worst movies ever made, but has this massive cult following. It was basically telling the story of how that movie got made, and following the guy who actually made it, Tommy Wiseau, who in the movie is played by James Franco. The movie was pretty good. I haven't watched The Room. I haven't forced myself to watch that movie just because I know and heard people say that it's really, really bad, but it's one of those really, really bad movies you kind of had to watch. I haven't forced myself to watch that yet. But The Disaster Artist itself was pretty good. James Franco does a really great job, and James Franco for me is very hit and miss. But he did really good, did really great here, I should say. And the movie, the whole message, it's like, just believe in yourself. It's believe in your dream, and the persistence that you have to get there is, what is it going to be? Is it going to be, you're going to, fall on your face the first time, or every time someone tells you you're not good enough, or you're going to, pick yourself up and continue to do it despite what anyone else says. So that's what the movie was about, and it was funny. Again, I don't think you necessarily have to watch The Room to get the jokes and to get the whole movie itself, because I think it just does a well enough job on its own. So that's what I will say about The Disaster Artist. Molly's Game is pretty. It's got a great performance. Aaron Sorkin, who has written awesome TV shows like The West Wing and The Newsroom, he wrote this one. He's directing this one. This is his first directorial movie, so he did a fantastic job with that. Lady Bird is fantastic. It's all around a great cast. Blade Runner 2049, amazing visuals. Directed by Denis Villeneuve, who directed Arrival last year. Fantastic, and he was just the movie was really, really good. I will admit, though, it was a little too long for me. I felt the length of the movie, which is very uncommon for me to feel in a lot of these movies, but I felt the length on that. And everything else, I think, is
3 hours.
It's like it's almost 3 hours. Yeah, it's like 2:40, 2:45, something like that.
Jeez.
Yeah. It's really, but it's worth it. I mean, it's a really good story. The story doesn't drag, which is the nice part. There are scenes where I'm like, oh my god, okay, I know where you're going. Just get there already. Because there's one particular scene where we know what the end result's going to be. But they dragged that thing so long. They dragged that thing like an extra minute or two than it's supposed to be. But overall, the whole movie's really, really good. So yeah, those are my honorable. That's all I'll mention on my honorable mentions.
Perfecto.
All right, so let's get to the big ones. Let's get to the best / favorite movies of the year of 2017 for me. Like honorable mentions, I'm just gonna read them off, and then if anything pops up, we'll talk about it. This list also very big. So the first one, again, all alphabetical order: A Monster Calls, Annabelle Creation, Baby Driver, Coco, Dunkirk, Free Fire, Get Out, I, Tonya, Logan, Spider-Man Homecoming, The Big Sick, the Lego Batman Movie, The Shape of Water, Thor Ragnarok, I'm almost done, 3 Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri, War for the Planet of the Apes, and Wonder Woman. There you go.
Huh. That was, wow. I could not keep up.
It's a big ass list. That's all. It's just a big ass list. That's why I'm like, that's why I'm like, you know what? No, I'm not gonna do a top 20 or top 15 and rank them because that's too much work. Look how big my list is already. You think I'm gonna decide which one's the best movie out of those? No.
Right. That deep analysis right there. So yeah, it's interesting. Like, dude, like, there's this big thing about war movies. I think they're cool, but I don't push myself to want to see the war movies, right? So Black Hawk Down to me was a good movie. What is it? Saving Private Ryan, great movie. Even The Patriot with Mel Gibson, great movie. War movies, just all the time. I'm always enthused. I always watch them, but I never push myself. They have to be on television sometimes. I like TNT.
Yeah.
So Dunkirk, can you give me what am I missing here? Why is Dunkirk just a highly acclaimed movie?
I think
what's going on
for me, one of the things that I liked about, and I saw Dunkirk. I think I saw it 3 times. So the thing I liked about Dunkirk was, it's not, the typical kind of war movie. It's not going from point A to point B to point C because the movie's told in a non-linear fashion. It's telling you the story over the course of, I think it's over the course of a few days or like a few weeks, but you don't know that if you don't pay that close attention. Because I didn't figure out what the hell was going on until like the end of the movie, where I was like putting it all together. I was like, oh, okay, this is happening at this time, this is happening at this time, and then I saw it again the second time, and I started putting all the dots together. For me, one of the reasons why I love Dunkirk was the score. I think the score was fantastic. I loved the ticking clock that plays throughout kind of the whole movie in a lot of the scenes. I love the cinematography. I thought the cinematography was great, and I just like I don't like it because it's probably terrible to go through that, but the claustrophobic feel of war, and the fact that none of these characters, because all these characters are from different countries, but we basically follow the British soldiers. And I like the fact that for a good chunk of this movie, there's no dialogue. It is all through, body expressions. It is all through body language, and I like that. I think that's one of the reasons why I liked it. I know that's one of the criticisms that some people had, that there wasn't enough dialogue, or it wasn't, there wasn't, you didn't know what the hell was going on. And the thing about Dunkirk, at the same time, it's like, if you don't know about Dunkirk, if you don't know what the immediate kind of what's the word I'm looking for? The immediate effect and what Dunkirk really meant during the war. If you don't know that beforehand, or if you don't know that when you're watching the movie, then you're gonna be lost. It's like, okay, this thing is basically a low rent Saving Private Ryan. It's all of these characters are Ryan, and you're saving all these people. That's probably what some people felt. So I liked it because of that, because the claustrophobic feel. There wasn't a lot of dialogue. I know a lot of people didn't like it because there wasn't a lot of dialogue. They wanted, I think maybe people were expecting like a full blown war movie. Like they were expecting, like these awesome dogfights and these awesome, shootouts or anything like that. This movie was basically a survival story. And I think once you get that, and once you understand that this is what the movie is, maybe you'll appreciate it a little bit more, maybe not. Personally, I liked it just because of the things I mentioned. The cinematography, the score, just the feeling of what Christopher Nolan and the cinematographer, who I forgot to write down because I'm dumb, what they did was, for me, fantastic. That's on my end.
All right. Nice to know. Nice to hear this kind of deeper look into it. I've been wanting to watch it, but like I said, I restrained myself because sometimes I'm just not too excited. I've been waiting for the hero movies and the Star Wars, and then when you get to reality, I'm like, I can wait. But I'm still interested, so thank you for that. Another introspective I would like from you is Shape of Water. I still have not seen it, and I don't care if you spoil anything for me, but I need to know. Is this Hellboy related?
It is not Hellboy related.
Damn.
I can see why you would make that reaction, because I think a lot of other people made that connection too.
Yeah.
Because because they don't give him a name, but so he's basically credited as the Amphibian Man. He looks a lot like the guy from Hellboy.
Yeah.
And it's ironic because the guy who plays him in Hellboy, who did the character, is the same guy that plays him in The Shape of Water.
Come on.
And him and Guillermo del Toro, the director, they work a lot together. So there's that. Also, there's like this one or two sections, like two sets in the movie where I was watching. I was like, that could so totally fit in Hellboy. And there was another part where I was watching. I was like, is that the same set from Blade 2? Because he directed Blade 2. So there's this part in the movie where they keep in the lab where they keep the Amphibian Man, and there's this pool, and then like the way everything else is structured, it's like that looks like the place where they had Blade and Whistler held up at the end of Blade 2. It was like that looks like the location. I know it isn't, but you can make the argument that it is because it looks a lot like that.
Damn. Okay. Well, I just had to know. I still want to watch it.
It's very good. It's a very good movie.
Is it a love story?
It is a love story. It's a very touching love story.
Not opposed to love stories.
I was very surprised by it.
Now here's one, and I want you to touch on this in connection to another film, Wonder Woman. Great movie, dude. Like, I was like, yes. Took my girlfriend. She was like, woo, go women, right? This is a cool movie. The action, the dialogue, the story, heavy. I'm so confused, and I want you to touch on Wonder Woman, why you liked it, but I'm just so confused why Justice League wasn't Wonder Woman. I'm just like, what? How do you fuck this up?
You are not alone. You are not alone, my friend. Everyone has that reaction. So yeah, let's talk about the good. Let's talk about Wonder Woman. Wonder Woman's fantastic. It's about damn time that she finally had her own movie. And again, since I've been following the news cycle since 2005, 2006, we were supposed to get a Wonder Woman movie way back then.
Well, I'm glad.
Joss Whedon.
Okay, you have the backdrop. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
I have the backdrop just to give you guys a little bit of backdrop. Joss Whedon, who has, obviously the creator of Buffy the Vampire Slayer, Firefly, he directed Serenity. He did the reshoots for Justice League when Zack Snyder had to step down. He wrote a script for Wonder Woman at the time, and this is before he jumped over to Marvel. He did the script for it. Warner Brothers apparently didn't like it, and it wasn't just because of the script. It's because Warner Brothers at that time did not believe that a Wonder Woman movie would work. They didn't believe that a female-led superhero movie would work at the time because they're dumb. Obviously, they changed their tune because Wonder Woman has given them a shit ton of money. So there you go. So there's that. I liked Wonder Woman. I thought it was fantastic. I thought Gal Gadot, I know there was a lot of crap on Gal Gadot for playing Wonder Woman. Like, oh, her boobs aren't big enough. Oh, she's not muscular enough. No, shut your mouth. You all shut your mouths now, because you all love her as Wonder Woman.
There's a lot of political backlash against her too, but we're gonna put politics aside.
Yeah. So I loved her. I loved her as Diana. I loved her as Wonder, because she's not Wonder Woman. They don't never call her Wonder Woman. They only call her Diana in the movie, which I thought was really cool, because she hadn't earned the title of Wonder Woman. But I loved what she did there. She just brought this amazing humanity to the character, and it's basically a fish out of water story, but it's done in a very subtle way. It's not over the top. It's very, she has her, her, I can't even think of the word. I want to say something cheesy, but I'm not going to. She has Steve Trevor. She has Chris Pine, Steve Trevor. So she has him to guide her through this world of men that she's never seen before. And I liked it. It was really good. It had a great message. I love the action scenes. Everyone talks about that scene when she steps into no man's land, and she's just, we finally see her in the full suit. She's got her shield, and she's, just taking all these, the shots, and just helping the soldiers cross over. I thought that was great. Thought that was awesome. So I loved it. And then, it becomes the typical DCU movie at the end, when it's just a big ass CGI battle. But everything that came before that was really, really good.
Right. Yeah. They had like a village gunfight. They were like, the villagers, and she was
where she destroys their church. But that's fine. Whatever. We'll get past that.
We always get past those things. But yeah, dude, I feel you on it. They built her up so well. Her ignorance. But then, it's the evolution of the protagonist. These are what films do. And they brought her along very, very fairly. And even, like you said, her guy, the pilot, the dude, the army guy, I forget his name, but...
Steve Trevor.
Yeah, he was even in amazement, but he still stood by her. He knew what she was capable of. She went out there, did her thing. Boom. Like... your eyes are open during this entire movie, even during the CGI fight, which was against Ares, god of war, which I love. I love the mythology being brought into this. I liked it. I liked it too. It just was a little, thin. Yeah. But whatever. Well, I'll get past that. I've gotten past it. Clearly, because we love it, right? We're gonna look past its flaws and just say 100% this movie, wow. It'll go down. I'm actually glad that historically, as you brought up, Warner Brothers turned this idea down. I'm not glad for their misogyny, but I am happy that they waited this long, because who knows what we would have gotten if we would have produced it early on. I don't think it would have been. Yeah, that's true. I mean, yeah.
Because then we would have been like, that other Wonder Woman movie that wasn't as good. We're gonna compare it to this one.
And that would be it'll be like a Fantastic Four thing, where they did it. They're gonna try it again. This time, I'm glad they waited long enough. Because up to this point, Man of Steel was my favorite DC movie. They tried to do Batman vs Superman. Man of Steel still favorite. And then Wonder Woman came up. I was like, you know what? I think Wonder Woman just beat Man of Steel for me, because the story, it got my attention. It was great, and I love the Amazonians. We went into their world. We got to see them in action too.
Yeah, that was a really awesome scene too, because that's the only time you really see them, and then that was really awesome. That scene on the beach, just seeing them, first of all, just the image of seeing all these badass women basically just destroy these guys with bows and arrows was pretty damn cool.
Mm-hmm. So that now that we just like fell all in love all over again, I know this is supposed to be your favorite list, but what the fuck happened with Justice League, dude? Why couldn't we do this again? It's just like, is it because of all the characters?
I don't know. I don't know what happened. That's my reaction. I don't know what happened. So
I'll tell you this.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'll let you. I just want to say, I love when pretty much Superman was gonna beat the shit out of all of them. That was probably my favorite scene in the movie, and that lasted like a minute. You know what I'm saying? That's the extent of what I'll say for this.
All right, so here's and you'll notice Justice League nowhere in my lists because I don't know where to put that thing.
Nowhere.
So Justice League. So here's the background stuff. They started filming Justice League like a month after Batman v Superman came out. So everything they had filmed, was just after Batman v Superman came out. So they were hearing all the reaction to Batman v Superman. Then Wonder Woman came out, and then they delayed Justice League a little bit, and then Wonder Woman came out, and they saw the reaction for that. And I don't know what they did. I mean, they obviously, it's been reported a lot. The all the reshoots they did, the very expensive reshoots they did for everything. And we'll never know what reshoots, what were and weren't reshoots, unless you look at Henry Cavill's mustache debacle thing, whatever the hell they did with that. But the thing with Justice League, and I've mentioned this on the podcast, in other podcasts in the past, the DCU, for me, is basically a chicken with its head cut off. It's running around, and Warner Brothers doesn't know what to do with it. They're just going to let it run around and see what happens, and see when it finally just tips over and dies. When Justice League came out, I said this on the podcast, Justice League has to be great. It has to be awesome. It can't be good. It can't be decent. It can't be alright. It can't be meh. It can't be any of those things. Because we are, like you mentioned, we are going off the high of Wonder Woman. At this point, basically the best DCU movie that has come out. Granted, there hasn't been a lot of them, but still. And then you're going to give us at the time, but this is before the movie came out, this is just me guessing, a mediocre movie in Justice League. You're just going to nosedive everything good that you have done. And the faith that fans have in your DCU, in your extended universe, with these characters that we all love, is going to go away. We are not going to trust in you. We are not going to believe in you. We are not going to have faith in anything you do. You can cast the best director. You can bring Christopher Nolan back to direct another Batman movie, and even though we'll get excited in that knee-jerk reaction that we always do, we're going to look back and be like, no, because it's still in the DCU, and you gave us Justice League, and you gave us Batman v Superman, and you gave us Suicide Squad. Yeah, but we gave you Wonder Woman. No, that is not a good debate. That is not a good excuse to give us a piece of shit that was Justice League. Although it wasn't a piece of shit. I would be fair. I didn't hate Justice League. I didn't love Justice League. I didn't even like Justice League. I thought it was just okay. It was a passable enough movie where I was like, you know what? I watched it. I watched it once. I'll watch it again when it's on FX next year.
It's so bogus. FX, really? You're giving it an FX status?
You know what's going to be on FX? They're going to do their superhero weekend, and it's going to be right on after Man of Steel.
Oh, they so going to do that. I feel you. I went in with high expectations. And I walked in and out just like kind of neutral. It's the same. I was like, Well, I felt it was in the alright category. I was like, yeah, it was alright. You know, I wanted this, I wanted that. I don't know. They really, a lot of these movies, they try to capture so much humor. Because humor is a way to win an audience a lot of times.
Yeah.
But the humor between the characters wasn't working. And they just were trying too freaking hard. And, Flash's character was supposed to be the most comedic. And then you have Bruce Wayne, who's supposed to be the darkest. Yeah, he comes off as a little sweet, a little like goofy in some sense, right?
Yeah, like
he has to get along.
Yeah, that scene where it's like, where Superman basically repeats the line that he did in Batman v Superman. He's like, "Do you bleed? You will." And then when Superman flies off, Batman's on the ground, and you can tell this is a reshoot because it was totally a Joss Whedon line. He's like, yeah, something's bleeding. That is not a line Batman should say.
Exactly.
Ever.
And they really do. And I love the conflict between characters, but the fact that you're just trying to be so humorous. And then Poseidon. Why am I messing up his name?
Aquaman?
Aquaman, sorry.
Yeah. Or Bro Aquaman, as I like to call him, because he was too broy.
He's a tough guy, and then suddenly him too. He eventually gets captured by this humor, and suddenly the only character you're taking serious is Wonder Woman. And even the Superman scenes, right? Superman has his moment with Lois Lane, and that's it. And then all these other characters are just goofballs at that point. I was disappointed that they did this, but Wonder Woman to me was still, even her first scene, it was like one of the opening scenes, if not the opening scene, right? Where she goes into the bank.
Yeah, when she goes to the bank and saves them. Yeah,
dope. I was like, yeah, here we go again.
That was awesome, man. When she was blocking all those bullets, I was like, oh damn.
But that's pretty much where they leave it. They shouldn't have tried so hard. They had all the badass superheroes together in one room, and the comedy just ruined it for me. And then on top of that, Aquaman loses in water fight. I was like, what? I get it.
That was a little weird. Although I think people were making the argument that he's not actually Aquaman yet. Like he's Aquaman, but he's not the Aquaman from that we all know from the comics who was all powerful. But still, you're right. A guy who lives on water, who is the master of the water and the oceans, should not lose a water battle. I don't care if he was in the sewer. He should not lose that battle. But whatever.
So yeah, like I said, my favorite scene was when Superman was gonna beat them all up, and he even tried to hit Flash. But it shows, and that was one of my part that I was content with. He couldn't hit Flash. He almost got him, but it just wasn't quick enough to get him. But it shows that that's kind of related to the comics, right? Flash is faster, but Superman will always compete and be inches away from getting him. And that's why I was like, oh yeah, and then the next thing you know, the scene was over, and we're back to comedy with Batman's line. So,
yeah,
I really appreciate you taking your time to explain your position on this, because it was nowhere on your list. So yeah, thank you for that.
Yeah, well, there you go, kids. Because if you need my ringing endorsement for Justice League, it's okay. There you go. Or just wait for FX. Doesn't matter.
Oh man. Yeah, this has been good. Do you want to explore this list is long of yours?
This list is long of mine. So we talked about Wonder Woman. I think War for the Planet of the Apes is pretty obvious. It's the third movie in this series, which has been completely awesome, which is very rare nowadays to have a trilogy that there is no weak movie. All of them have been very good. And that just the final of War for the Planet of the Apes we'll admit maybe tear up a little bit, go all misty-eyed.
Yeah. But Caesar, you gotta love Caesar.
Gotta love Caesar. You gotta love Andy Serkis, who brings that character to life as well.
And then Woody Harrelson, I was convinced as his antagonist role.
Yeah, I mean that's the good thing about him. He can play the nice guy when he wants to be, but he can play the cutthroat badass villain if you give him the right material.
And then Caesar shows his gives off a human emotion, empathy, where you think is supposed to be human, which is actually real in nature. He empathizes with Woody, and pretty much Woody had to take his own life. I found that powerful.
Yeah, and that was a great scene. Yeah, that was a really great scene, and I love the fact that how they connected that to the original series a little bit, where they're the reason why the humans can't talk anymore, and that's the reason why Charlton Heston's character from the original was so important, because he can actually talk.
So yeah, the full circle. You're right. They brought it back, and this shows that the true barbarians weren't these apes. The true animals were the humans who just couldn't deal with losing what was theirs. And they weren't the strongest in nature anymore. The disease was taking them out. The apes were surviving. Caesar showed a lot of integrity because this guy murked his family, man. He fucking
Yeah, that was not cool.
fuck, how do you do this? How do you get? Holy crap! Ugh. Yeah, that was a good movie. You mentioned Logan. Fuck, dude, Logan captured my heart for the ages. Dude, you know what?
Logan was fantastic.
Dude, the first scene when the Mexicans are like pretty much trying to take his rims, I'm like, what's about to go down? And then my jaw just drops. Why has Fox been messing this up for so long? Forget kids, forget teenagers. This is what Wolverine should have been always doing to people. You know?
Yeah,
Like,
definitely. Because that immediately puts you into the mindset. It's like, if you didn't know this movie was rated R, you damn well know it's rated R now.
Yes.
Because he just cuts that guy's hand off clean. I'm like, oh shit.
I was like, yes. Oh my god, I was waiting for that, and it happened. And now I feel like just this horrible human being that I wanted it so badly. But it was just wow. You just get this, and it has some kind of, I don't know. It wasn't a traditional Marvel movie, right? I get this feeling that the way they were showing Logan's pain throughout the beginning to the end, you're just getting more in touch with the character's feelings and what he's going through every single scene. He's slowly dying, and it's like shit. You just from the beginning you're with this character and you're feeling for him. It just didn't seem like a Marvel movie in that sense, or Fox Marvel, whatever you want to say it.
Yeah, no, yeah, it definitely had the Western feel all throughout it too.
There
Yeah.
you go. That's a good way to put it. X-23, I believe her name was.
Yeah, that's the character. Yeah, X-23.
Flawless. Kind of, going in skeptical about a child star. Ever since Home Alone, how do you really top off a child star? But this young lady, wow, really captured the savagery of X-23.
Oh yeah, and then the fact that she doesn't even talk that much, and you just hear her just like yell out every time she's attacking people. It's like, damn, like this is exactly what we want of, especially of an X-23 character, because X-23 is very popular in the comics. And in the comics, she also takes up the mantle of Wolverine. She did that recently in the comics, but yeah, I mean, like, if you're gonna have someone, take over the mantle of, well, I guess not anymore since Disney now owns X-Men, but if you were gonna have someone take over the mantle of Wolverine, of Logan, of the character, she did a pretty damn good job of putting in her resume, because that is what she does in this movie. Even when she's not being violent, like even like the tender scenes, like even just her like sitting down with Professor X when they're watching that old Western movie, like that alone was just, it was touching, and it was very telling of the kind of character that she was. Like, this is the life that she could have, but she has to keep killing people to survive and get the life that she really wants.
Definitely. Hey, and I'm not even. I wish the best for her as an actor. I want her to continue going on. I would watch any other movie with her. Even the characters, like the other child actors that were like the other mutants, right? They didn't really have much to contribute. But going into watching a mutant movie, it was disappointing knowing that you're gonna have like 4 mutants. And I was like, oh man, I really sometimes don't like it, but I get it. They're dying. They're all supposed to be dead. But then you see those child mutants. I'm like, yes, get them, right? So that was cool. But going back to that whole idea of the mutants being dead, I don't think everyone understood it. I actually had conversations with people where they needed to be explained, like, what was the whole thing about Professor X feeling guilty about? And I know you're aware of this. He's the one responsible for all the X-Men pretty much being dead because of the whole accident.
Yeah, I love the fact that they didn't like outright say it. I love the fact that there was a very like subtlety to it, and that they gave you enough, but they didn't tell you the whole thing, and that I think to me worked a hell of a lot better. Because if they had done I've read that they had wrote in a scene, or it was like a penciled in scene of just like brief flashes of what happened at the school. Like they were gonna show like bits and pieces of it, but they decided just to simply focus on Patrick Stewart's face when he's telling the story. And I think to me that works a hell of a lot better, because you just seeing his emotion and the fact that he can't really remember, that is what really hits home in that scene.
Definitely. Oh. But it's sad. This entire movie was just like, it took me back since like 2000, year 2000, when the first X-Men movie came out, and you realize, what's happening in this movie. And it's like when Rose let Jack die in the water. You're just like, why couldn't you have let him on the door? Why does this have to happen to the professor? Why does this have to happen to all the X-Men? Why Logan? Why? And my childhood died at the end of that movie. I feel like I need to...
I mean, yeah, basically. I mean, that scene... I mean, he's been playing this character for like 15 years. That's crazy. And you don't really get a lot of that, really. And the fact that he's done it so well. And, whatever, opinion you have on, oh, he's too tall or whatever, he's knocked it out of the park every single time. And what he did with Logan was probably the best adaptation and the best version of Wolverine and Logan. And that final scene when he's holding her hand and he's basically just he's dying and he's saying, oh, that's what it feels like. When he said that, that's it. I broke.
Oh man. And I own the movie. I only watched it once so far, and it's hard to revisit it, but I know I'm going to. Just, to remember what it feels like.
Yeah, I mean that's not a movie. That's not a movie you were like, yeah, I'm gonna go watch Logan. That's a movie like, you know what? I'm in a mood. I'm gonna sit down. I'm gonna watch Logan, and I'm gonna be okay with that.
This is lengthy. It's a lengthy film, but for its length,
it is. Yeah, it's pretty long.
It kept.
But it's worth it.
I'll go back and I don't regret it. One movie that I can't sleep through, because even though I know it's gonna happen, I'm just like, no, man. Every scene matters. Pay attention. Yeah. Whew. It's hard talking about that right now.
Getting all misty eyed right now. Just like...
Yeah. So.
Yeah. So let's see what we got. Monster Calls, that came out very early in the beginning of the year.
That's a kid's movie.
Well, it's based off a kid's book. Of the same, I think it's the same name on Monster Calls, but it's a very, I haven't read the book. I just saw the movie, but I was like, I kind of, part of me wants to kind of go read the book just to see how they deal with this, because it's a very heavy movie. It is a very heavy movie, and I will admit the last 10-15 minutes of that movie, I was teary-eyed, and I didn't care who saw me. I don't care. I don't care if people were calling me, a girly girl. I don't care. That movie will get to you. Those last 10-15 minutes of the movie were powerful, and I could not recommend this movie enough if you haven't watched it yet. So that you also have to be in a mood to watch this movie as well. That can't be a movie like, yeah, I want to watch Monster Calls. No, you have to be in a mood to go watch the Monster Calls. Annabelle Creation, a lot better than the first one. I thought the first one was okay. This one, a prequel to that one, which is funny because Annabelle was a prequel to The Conjuring, but all of these movies are spin-offs. Very good. A lot of great scares. Like the whole last act of the movie is just non-stop. And I saw this with a very great crowd. They laughed when they were supposed to laugh. They were scared when they were supposed to be scared. No one was, being dumb or saying anything stupid or anything like that. They were fully into it. And that was probably one of the best movie experiences I've had this year, watching Annabelle Creation with that crowd, because it was really, really cool.
Yeah, and I think these series they're doing a real good service of bringing back the horror franchise. But I have to say, a lot of horror films, from what I've watched, in my opinion, they don't make me jump anymore. But this series, great job. That's what I have to say about it.
Let's see, Baby Driver, very, very good. It was probably one of the hit surprises of the year. Coco, I doubted Coco. I admit, I didn't have a lot of faith in Coco. It's a Pixar movie. Never doubt Pixar, but I was doubting it. I went to go watch it. I thoroughly enjoyed it. Also, another movie. By the end of the movie, I was very misty-eyed. I didn't care who saw it. It got to me, hit me right in there, hit me right there in the heart. But it's also, it's also about our culture. It's about, Dia de los Muertos. So I think that's why it got to me, as like it did. We talked about Dunkirk. Free Fire. This is a movie that kind of slipped under people's radars because it was a limited release movie. It's a great movie. It feels like an old. Like an 80s movie. It's basically this one massive big shootout. It's filled with these great characters. There's a lot of big names in there. Brie Larson, Cillian Murphy, Armie Hammer, Charlotte Copley's in there, Jake Raynar's in there. He unfortunately was in one of he was in, not in The Last Night, but the one before The Last Night in the Transformers movie. But he has redeemed himself with a few other movies. This one is definitely one of them as well. So Free Fire. If you haven't watched Free Fire, I highly recommend you do. It's very, very good.
All right. Yeah, I didn't know it went under my radar. Yeah.
Get Out. I mean, I'm pretty sure everyone has said everything great about Get Out. I'm just gonna agree with them because it's a very great movie.
Definitely.
Just great. If you haven't watched it yet, do it. I, Tonya, which is about the Tonya Harding, with Margot Robbie in it. She's great. Margot Robbie's fantastic in it. I, Tonya is really great. There's this, I'm not going to spoil it, but there's just this one particular scene, and you will know it when you watch it, or if you watch it, when she's talking about, because the movie revolves around her and it revolves around the incident with Nancy Kerrigan. So there's one scene where she's talking about how her life was affected after everything. And it's just so powerful, and the movie itself is like it's a drama, but it's a comedy, and a lot of the comedy is very, very good in it. But that's that one scene where it just comes out of left field, because she's talking about how her life went in a tailspin and what her life ended up becoming, and even after that, and that's not the end of the movie. There's still like a good 10 minutes after it, but just that scene alone was enough for me to say, you know what? This movie's going on my list, because that scene alone was fantastic.
I, Tonya, you said.
I, Tonya, yeah.
I, Tonya, got it.
So you got Spider-Man: Homecoming. I'm not gonna say too much about that. Spider-Man. They finally kind of got Spider-Man right. I know there's a lot of people out there that say Tobey Maguire is the best Spider-Man. There's some people out there that say Andrew Garfield's the best Spider-Man. I'll let you have those discussions. I personally liked Tom Holland as Spider-Man. I think he's also young enough, so they want to build this franchise off him. They can. Michael Keaton was great as the Vulture. Spider-Man's finally back in the MCU, which is where he always belonged.
Yes.
So
and they stopped killing Uncle Ben.
And they stopped killing Uncle Ben. Yeah.
Yes, finally. Leave him alone. Shit.
Yeah, we know the story. We know Uncle Ben's story. Yeah, he got shot. All right, whatever. Let him be Spider-Man. The Big Sick. That was I think that might have gone through some people's radars as well. It's a very good movie. It's based off a true story of the people that actually wrote it. Kumail Nanjiani is a comedian. The story is about him and how he met his wife, who is Emily V. Gordon, but she's not. Emily V. Gordon doesn't play herself in the movies. She's played by someone else. But it's a very good movie. It tells a story of how they met and the kind of crazy situation they got into because she got very sick. And the reason the movie's called The Big Sick. She got very sick, and it's him meeting her parents for the first time and dealing with her being sick and everything. It's a very touching movie. The comedy in there is fantastic, but at the end of the day, this movie's a pure drama, and it works on every single level. What else? The Lego Batman movie. It's the Lego Batman. What do you want me to say? It's Batman. He's the Lego Batman. It's probably one of the best Batman movies out there.
Really?
It's good. It is. Yeah, and the thing about the Lego Batman, it's very surprising. They really get into why Batman is the way Batman is. And that is the reason why I kind of really liked it.
Through a Lego movie.
Through a Lego movie, exactly. And that's how great it was.
Okay.
First of all, you know what you're getting into, because the beginning scene of the movie, and by the way, this movie has no problem making fun of the Batman history, and those are some of the funniest scenes in the whole movie. But the Lego Batman movie is right up there, man. It is fantastic. I will stand on my ground and say the Lego Batman movie is one of the best Batman movies ever made. It's probably not better than The Dark Knight, settle down, but it is up there.
It beats Batman vs Superman.
Oh yeah, by a long shot. It's far away. The line is a dot between the two. Yeah. The Shape of Water, we talked about that. Thor Ragnarok. I don't know what to say. Thor Ragnarok was fun. It was a hell lot of fun. It was funny. I had such a fantastic time watching it. Yes, it is more Guardians of the Galaxy like, but who cares? They're all in the same universe. Chris Hemsworth is a funny guy, so I finally got to see his comedic chops in here. And I just love what they did in the movie.
And you get the Hulk.
You finally get the Hulk in the movie. He's been gone for so long. Now you finally get him, and the chemistry between them and between Chris Hemsworth and Mark Ruffalo is top notch. And Korg is awesome.
Oh yeah. I really didn't know what to feel about him. But they kept him long enough in the movie to be like, all right, this guy's a keeper, definitely.
Yeah. 3 Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri. It's a drama. It's by the guy who did 7 Psychopaths and In Bruges, which if you haven't seen In Bruges, I recommend that. If you haven't seen anybody out there. 3 Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri. It's one of those movies where it does have some comedic elements in it, but the main backbone of the movie is a drama. Frances McDormand's in the movie. She plays the lead. She's the mother of a daughter who was killed, and the police haven't found the killer yet, and she's not content with them just pushing the case aside. So she kind of she puts up these 3 billboards that are they're kind of attacking the police a little bit for not doing anything, and the sheriff of the town, played by Woody Harrelson in the movie, and it's a great movie. Sam Rockwell's in there. He for those of you guys who don't know, maybe he played Justin Hammer in Iron Man 2, the villain, one of the villains anyway, but he's fantastic. And the Sam Rockwell, by the way, if you haven't seen anything else from Sam Rockwell, just pick any of his movies, because he is just a great actor, and he's probably one of the most underrated actors in Hollywood, because everything he's in and does is great. So 3 Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri. We talked about war, and we talked about Wonder Woman. So that's it. We went through all my movies.
Pretty extensive list. Very extensive.
I tried to give you as much as possible. There, that's my justification. I will try to give you as much as possible.
What are your most exciting hopefuls for this year then?
Oh, I should have wrote that down. Because there'll probably be a big ass list for that too.
Yeah. 1 through 12.
Yeah, exactly. Let's start with January first. No.
No, just top of your head.
Definitely Avengers: Infinity War. Obviously, that's right up there. That should go without saying. I'm looking also forward toward. It's. I think it's just easy to say all the superhero movies. So like Avengers: Infinity War, Deadpool 2, Black Panther, which comes out next month. What else? We got the New Mutants coming out in February, which is like it's basically it's basically a horror movie, which I really love, and I know a lot of people out there are against the whole idea, but screw you, don't watch it. What else we got? We got X-Men: Dark Phoenix coming out in November.
Sweet.
We got Aquaman coming out this year as well in December, although I'm not really excited for that, but I'll put that on the list. I'm still gonna go watch it, but I'm not excited for it. Yeah, I think those movies. What else?
You have a plug-in for Insidious this Friday in theaters.
Yes, Insidious does come out in theaters this week. I actually am gonna go watch it. So thank you very much for pointing that out there. That's one less thing I have to add into the podcast. So Insidious: The Last Key comes out this weekend, guys. Go watch it. I'm sure.
There's definitely the list.
The list is out there. I'm pretty sure I've made the list, but I just putting it out right now would be whatever. But yeah, I think the new Predator movie's coming out this year. I'm really looking forward to that, for sure.
Oh, maybe we'll see some engineers and xenomorphs.
Right, and it's just like in the end, it's like whatever, just put them in there. No one cares. Let's mess with this continuity even more. Just throw them in there. Whatever, it doesn't matter.
Oh crap! Yeah, this was a heavy list of yours. I'm glad to play a big part in discussing them with you. I really am reflecting that I should watch more movies.
I think you should, Tony.
I should.
I mean, you probably shouldn't watch as much as I do because I watch a lot of movies.
Well, you watch it numerous times. I mean, I can do the one time, and then watch another one the next day.
I should probably say that because if you've just listened, if you're your first time listener to this podcast, it makes it sound like I watch movies more than once. I will watch movies more than once on a few occasions. I don't watch every movie I watch more than once in the theater. I don't want to put that message out there. I don't want to put my image out there. It's like, no, I'm at the theater twice a week. No. Yeah, like no, like I gotta go watch it again. You got any more of those? You got any more of that movie? No. So yeah, I will go watch a movie more than once, but not every movie. So I want to just put that out there.
Yeah,
but I mean, if you need a movie buddy, Tony, I'm always here for you.
You're okay. Thank you. I really appreciate that. Yeah. Hopefully our schedules don't conflict. But it is good to hear that there's a fellow movie lover out there willing to go see more movies and recommend movies, because a lot of people really don't consider films as best as you do. They look at the title, they look at the trailer, and they're just like, meh. It's very dismissive. You, however, you're willing to watch Coco and then admit that you almost cried.
Yeah, I mean, I that is what this podcast is all about. Me proving myself wrong. Really, that's the reason why I started this podcast. No. Yeah, I mean, like I mentioned, my lists are always big because I tend to enjoy a lot more movies than other people, and yeah, there are those people out there who are very like, this movie looks like crap, I'm not gonna go watch it. Nah, whatever, screw this movie. But like, you don't go watch it, then you don't know. You're just being that person that's like, oh, this movie sucks, and then they ask you the questions like, did you go watch it? And they're like, no, and then you get mad when they offend you and say your opinion doesn't matter, because it doesn't, because you didn't go watch the movie.
Definitely. You're a reasonable critic, and I was glad to be a part of this critique.
Well, thank you very much for joining me, Tony. I really appreciate it. Because it's really, if this podcast was just me, it would just be me by myself and me rambling and talking to myself and making myself laugh.
Well, there you go. You got an audience.
Now I got an audience. Now I can bounce off ideas with you.
All right. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Tony. So I wanted to thank Tony for being on the podcast. with me this week. He was a very good co-host. Maybe you'll come back one day.
Let's see where the movies come out in the next month or so, and then we'll have good discussions. Cause I gotta go to the theater. I just have to go now.
That's true. Yeah.
So yeah, thank you for re-inviting me. I'll surely take your invitation again.
You are always welcome, my friend. All right, so thank you to Tony, and I want to say goodbye to everyone. So thank you guys so much for listening to the podcast. Everything that I could possibly link is down below in the description/show notes area. So link to my WordPress account where you get my written spoiler-free reviews. What else is down there? Other stuff. Social media stuff is down there. If you're listening to this on YouTube, please click that like button, comment down below what did you think of our lists, stuff like that. If you're listening to this on iTunes, please leave me a subscription, or subscribe and leave me a rating and a review, and I will read it out loud for the podcast, give you guys a shout out. And yeah, anything else down there, go click it, like it, follow, you know what to do. It's basic stuff. So thank you guys so much for listening to the podcast this week. This has been our year in review of 2017. I am your host, Christian. That is Tony, who joined us today. And yeah, that's it. That's all I got for you guys. So as always, be safe, be merry, and go have a happy, safe, fun weekend. And as always, go watch some movies.
Whoop whoop! Yeah! Give it up! Movies!